Well, good evening, folks. Look a bit flushed because I've just had a bloody hot bath. Huge mistake, folks. Trust me on this one. If you have a decent dinner, evening meal, if you like, or we used to call it tea when I was a kid. Posh people call it dinner. Um, and then you think, oh, God, I'll go and have a bath, chill out in a bath. I usually have a shower, but it's more economical. But a bath, sometimes you like a Barbados bath and you soak up into the bubbles. And I felt sick as a parrot. Well, why do they say parrots? I felt sick as a dog, to be honest. Um, you know, so that's because obviously when it drops your blood pressure considerably getting in a hot bath. Number one, and number two is your stomach, because it's distended, is using a hell of a lot of blood to create this action of mastication or absorbing all the goodness in your tummy, in your stomach. So it does draw everything away and calls in the emergency troops around the stomach because of the extra work required. That's why a lot of people, quite frankly, drop dead after having a big meal. They don't just drop dead, it's the sheer stresses that having a big meal puts on the body, quite frankly. It's better to eat little and often, trust me on this. But I thought, well, I'd better give it 5 minutes before I get out of the bath. So if I stand up, I'll probably faint. So that's why I've got a red face. Anyway, cooled down a bit now, and won't do that again in a hurry. No, trust me. Folks, this evening's video, bit of an eclectic mix, I'm afraid, because there's a lot of little things I want to tell you that I found to be quite little nuggets of what's seen me through a lot of crap in my life. And they have been like little common denominators of help. And, silly little sayings like, this too shall pass, because you can get depressed thinking you're never going to get out the crap. And it does. Eventually you do. And things just do actually, strangely enough, often work out all right. Nothing is quite as bad as you seem to want to manufacture it in your head, because we build, don't we, mental monsters. We always look at worst case scenarios and then think it's going to happen. Well, sometimes it will, but that's not because of what you've been up to or what you're thinking. It's just that it's the luck of the draw on many occasions, sad to say. I notice when I watch, I don't know, people like Ian Crane having these meetings and inviting guest speakers around, that some of these people who are guest speakers are doing PowerPoint presentations. And they're trying to, well, they're not trying to, they think they're passing off some revelation that's so new to them and they're going to spread it. And what they're actually doing is conveying to many people like you and I, probably, who have been conspiracy analysts for a long time. And I'm 57, 58 this year, folks. Seen it, done it, been there, got the t-shirt, experienced that, don't want to experience that, know what to avoid and know what to stay away from and the people to avoid, etc. We've been there, us oldies. And I always laugh when someone says, how old are you? 57. You're a young man. I think, shut up. My mind checks, my body can't cash, for Christ's sake. How can I possibly be a young man? But I do, sometimes I think very young. And it's our thoughts have no age, do they really? We still think childish things. And I don't think there's ever a time in our lives where we have to, or we should be obliged to put away childish things. But there are certain things that are being explained in these Ian Crane invited guest speaker lectures that I've known about for years. And I know why they happen, and I know the science behind it, and I know the theories, and they're well. I'll give you a brief example, shall I? Oh, do. Yeah. Okay. As a natural-born, God-gifted scientist, I suppose. Not. I'll give it you as I get it and as what my take is. And I'm going to keep it for my benefit more than yours. Simple. It's the Alzheimer's, the fluoride that I inadvertently drink sometimes by accident. But I'm going to give you not a schoolboy rendition. That's a bit patronising, but a straightforward, in-your-face, take it or leave it sort of no bullshit. Okay, let's leave it at that. How I'd like somebody to say it to me. I've always liked books, but not the usual textbook guff you get at school. You know, Principia Mathematica and all this crap. Yeah, well, leave it to the mathematicians. Thanks very much. It's not my bag. I despise maths. I'm very good at maths, but I don't particularly like doing it. It gives me brain strain. And now I've got a calculator, a programmable one, so to that. Who needs a degree? Well, anyway, couple of things. Firstly, the books. There are a certain set number of books. I don't have a big... I mean, I think if you've got more than 20 books on your bookshelf, you're being a bit precocious. Because there's only really 20 books I could really say are worth keeping. Amongst those 20 then, there's a couple that I absolutely adore. One is The Magic of Thinking Big by Napoleon Hill. The Power of Positive Thinking. These are all positive mental attitude books, you might gather. They are the two fabulous books. I'm just seeing if I have another. Oh yes, Wattles is another book about the science of getting rich, because in my younger day I had aspirations of being very, very wealthy. It did work to a degree, but I was shafted by an ethnic brethren who I thought was my friend, and put me in a lot of trouble. And I got out of that, but, well, you know. And the other one is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, an absolute fabulous book. So these are the type of books I like reading, but sometimes I like to get my hands on scientific books. And just because I like to read, but not Isaac Asimov or anything like that. I stay well away from fiction books. I can't, I have to go for non-fiction because I don't want to listen to other people's stories, the made-up guff. I want the facts, but I'm very cautious about the type of books and information I believe. Because I did learn very quickly that the type of person you and I become is dependent on quite a few factors, primarily the friends you associate with, the environment you're brought up in, the information you take to be true and act upon it, and the information you dismiss, therefore, and the books you read. Okay? And those 4 factors, there are quite a few more, but those 4 factors are so influential. If you hang around with dogs, you'll get fleas. Don't you just hate that, seeing as I'm a dog freak? But I get the gist. And it's funny, isn't it? If you can have a punnet, that's a packet, like you get in a supermarket of blueberries, and I like blueberries. And you look and you think, it's 2 for a quid or something, 2 punnets for a quid, whatever, a pound for the international visitors. And you spot one in the corner and it's going mouldy, but the rest seem okay. You think, well, that's why they've dropped the price, got a mouldy one in. I'll soon throw that little sucker in the bin when I get home, and the rest will be okay. But you go down in the morning, the rest have got mould on them. You're too late, my old son, that's what it is. The damage has been done. The die has been cast. And the supermarkets know this. One thing. It's the same with friends. You can have 6 people who you consider your great friend, but you're not too sure about one of them. And before long, that one is not influenced by the other 5. That one will pollute the other 5. because there's a certain thing about evil, and it's all pervasive, isn't it? And yet good is so passive, but evil is so dominant. And that's how it happens. So you learn very quickly. But I mentioned earlier on science books, and I'm very much into alternative ideas about science. And revolutionaries like Tesla. And optics. I like optics. That's why I deal in lasers. I'm fascination with sight and optical, and using lasers for surgery on the eyes and eye correction and all these sort of things. So I'm obsessed with the physics side of the lasers as well. And it's these lectures that are being given of late on the internet by the Ian Crane, and I like him, it's not his fault, but some of the people talking are trying to pass these ideas off as they discovered. No, they didn't discover, they rediscovered, quite frankly. I've always thought, for example, that we don't keep our consciousness in our head. Because if you cut up a human brain, which I've done, literally, it's just a gelatinous mass, and everybody's looks the same, quite frankly. Man's brain's a little bit bigger than woman's, no big deal. It's not what you got to have way how you use it, isn't it? Thank goodness. And so you wonder why, in my hand I've got this bag of jelly, or this gelatinous mass. That's a person. Everything they've ever heard, seen, touched, smelt, tasted, is in there. It's not even the same, it's practically the same weight as his or hers. The men's obviously are slightly heavier, but brains do vary, in weight, but generally speaking, they do an average. But you can have a genius's brain in your hand, and you can have a moron's brain in your hand, and you wouldn't know which one's which. You start to juggle. It mess well. Because that's all it's going to tell you. We think we know everything we do. Where is all this knowledge? It's gone. But it's out there. And sometimes it's got to go somewhere. Everything's got to be somewhere. And this is the way I think. And now latest science, of course, is coming out with this sort of stuff to say, there are certain things that seem to be serendipitous. And I'm a big believer in the power of positive thinking. And I'm equally a believer of the destruction of negative thinking. And they do say, don't they, be careful what you think about. You might just get it, or it might just happen. And that is oh so true. It's beyond being funny, quite frankly. But there is even a science behind that, folks. Because if you watch a photon go through a slot, it's got a choice of two which it's going to go through. One photon. And you cannot split a photon. One photon being shone, it's a beam of, it's an energy particle of light. And you've got slots, two slots. And you set it up to go through the slot on the left, however you see me, this slot. Okay, this one. And you watch it and it's going through the slot like a good little photon. Bang, bang, bang. But the moment you stop watching it, this is the mind blower. It goes through both at the same time. But you start to watch it again, it'll behave itself and go in the one slot again. Well, that would imply, and that was only relatively recently discovered, of course, they thought, no, that would mean that all the experiments that have been done by people observing things must be wrong. The only way to see if it really is true is to do this experiment on the surface and repeat it 60 feet down in a cave, in a cellar. They did. And they found exactly what I just said. If people watch it the end result won't be the same as if it's doing it in private. But that would mean then that the light has a consciousness, doesn't it? Or some external influence is guiding the light, the photon, and wants to play silly buggers, putting it through 2 slots at the same time when you simply cannot split the beam, split the photon. Well, you tell me. But this winds back to be careful what you think about. Now, I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. Just do it. Just do it. Well, they do it. But would they do it any different if you were watching them do it? Not talking about humans. I'm talking about events that are out of our control. You see? If we stop giving things attention, would they react in a different way than if we were watching them? But this brings me back to the thought of, I know, and I do. Have you ever been at a party? I'm sure you've been to many. And you get the unnerving feeling that somebody's got their beady eyes on you, not to check you out, but you just don't like, I mean, I personally don't like anybody who stares. It's a real rude thing to do. You know, even to men to women, women to men, doesn't matter. It's an odd thing for people to do. And I don't like being stared at. So there's 2 reasons, obviously. One is they hate you, and the other one is they fancy you. You know, that's the 2 primary ones. That's the way we roll. But at a party, I can feel that someone's looking at me. And I turn around and catch them, and they look away. But when they're saying they're giving you evils, that's the worry. Well, oh, don't look now, but he's giving you evils, that bloke. You know. I could sense it. And sometimes beautiful women and uglies can sense when they're being looked at. They become self-conscious because they're getting this feeling, this crunchy feeling, if you like. Yet our eyes don't seem to our knowledge, emit. Well, all this stuff I'm going on about, you can read in books. But the one thing I wanted to say to you is that we've been obsessed of late talking about the effects of 5G. It's been coming for a long, long time. They've known about 5G technology for a good 20 years. It's part of the grand plan to depopulate the world, folks. It truly is. And we must do everything we can to resist it. But resistance is futile because we're controlled by the Borg. And it's coming to a street near you. I'm sick and tired of listening to 5G talk. I know it's bad stuff, you know. And just when you thought it was safe, I have no need to download a film in 1.6 seconds, quite frankly, off the internet. I have no need in my life for 5G. Nobody does, apart from the psychopathic controllers, 1%ers. That want to depopulate the world. They're thrusting it upon us and we have no choice because we're such wimps. We don't protest. And it only works in direct line of sight, so they put it every 800 feet, I understand. Before it loses its power, it has to pass the parcel. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of 5G pollution in our countries. And the problem is with 5G is this. Photon energy is very, 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 very important to human survival. Light. If the sun were to go out, in 3 days' time there would be no living thing on this earth. Okay, that's known. We know this. So we're pretty dependent on the sun and sunlight. And sunlight produces light in different frequencies, different wavelengths. And it's very broad. It's a fuzzy type of light. Okay, it's not really focused, it just hits us, and we love it, it's very good for us. And but it's a different thing, it's another energy particle, a photon, you see. But we'll come to that in a minute. The reason that sunlight is good for us is this, and you have to pay close attention. Part of the frequency of the wavelength, and sunlight has ultraviolet all the way up to infrared, that's why, and all the different wavelengths, the only difference is one wavelength doesn't even go past the skin, or the first layer of the 5 layers of the skin. It bounces off. Yeah, pathetic. And we can protect ourselves to some degree against harmful light, like UV, because if we're white honkies, we can build melanin into our skin to reflect it, or to absorb it and diminish it. But a photon goes whizzing through and hits our bloodstream. And obviously within our blood we have what they call red blood cells, erythrocytes for the posh people. And inside every little cell, there's a little factory. Isn't it? It always has a little nucleus, a little concentration of worker bees. And inside there's 2 or 3 little things called mitochondria. Don't get upset with the names. I couldn't spell it nowadays. Mitochondria has a very, 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 very special trick up its sleeve, and it is an essential little sucker, and that's why we have quite a few per red blood cell. And other cells also have mitochondria. Anywhere where there's DNA. Well, here's the deal. The little photon comes all the way from the sun, it hits you straight into the mitochondria. It sounds really painful, doesn't it? Going right in mitochondria, that did. His eyes are watering. Whew. Well, the mitochondria's job is to convert. It's like tickling a trout in a stream. You've got to get it excited and then flick it out. Well, what the mitochondria, the light photon does to the mitochondria at a chemical level is tickle that trout, because the mitochondria generates then, well, gets all excited because it's got a bit of stimulation, like the trout. Okay? And the byproduct of that stimulation is it whacks out an enzyme or a chemical called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Very, very important, underrated little sucker, ATP. ATP then goes and mixes like a 2-part glue with a thing called cytochrome. Okay, I think it's cytochrome D from memory. And there's a big bang. Yes, seriously, there's a little explosion. And guess what is created? Energy. Energy. So light creates energy by stimulating the mitochondria into action to give its goodies up to the body to create a 2-part glue that's going to produce energy. And that mixture of 2-part glue is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and ta-da, fresh on the scene, cytochrome C. Oh, and a bit of copper. That's why you should always have a supplement of copper. And the resultant then is energy. And that energy can also, it is thought, can be at a certain light wave frequency itself. Okay? Because explosions cause heat, heat causes, the whole thing goes on. But the point I want to make is that it is light energy. Okay? We have been so remiss at taking light, or just passive, no, yes, light, photon, big deal, photography, digital, no, light is essential. Because that energy then goes on to be used by the body's other little structures, the workforce, if you like, to repair and maintain your body's mechanical system. And this is happening billions of times a second in your body when you're surrounded in sunlight. Okay? In crisis times, for example, when there's no sunlight or you've got a lack, you suddenly you get what they call leukemia, lack of red blood cells. You feel crap, you feel tired, you've got no energy because there's lack of red blood cells to produce the energy, because there's not enough ATP in circulation. You feel even worse, don't you? And the body has to then use its own reserves of stored tissue. That's why people with cancer lose weight dramatically, because the body is on overtime trying to get energy because of the lack of ATP action going on. And it doesn't matter, you can send cancer patients to the sunniest climes in the world. But, well, here's the point of me telling you that, and it was very basic, I'm sure I'm trying to teach all ages, is that the 5G cripples, and I mean it, will cripple and is destined to cripple our mitochondria's ability to process light and make energy out of it. And it is going to be debilitating for the human population. Eventually it'll get us, my friend. And this is part of the eugenics program. That's all. And we haven't woken up yet. Nobody really knows the true agenda. We know what the true agenda is: to downpopulate the world to 500 million. In a street near you, you will be getting 5G. And you will be feeling crap pretty quickly. You will be lethargic. You really won't want to fight the system because you will be lethargic. And people will be falling over. They'll be off sick for work. The whole society will be crippled by this 5G. And we think it's so cool. But when your mitochondria cannot produce energy, what are you going to do? You're going to crumble in a heap on the floor. That's what you're going to do. You're going to be passive. You're not going to be aggressive. This is how fluoride works. It dumbs us down. It makes us passive. We really don't want to fight. No, I'm too tired. I'll do what you like. I don't care anymore. And this is what 5G is going to do to our society. And when we don't care anymore, and so many of us are lethargic and the world goes tits up, they're going to send in the big boys to sweep us off the streets. That's what 5G is about, and you can dress it up how you like, because 5G will destroy our ability to create energy from light. That's why they don't give a shit about that's why. There's reducing our light. Our natural sunlight is failing to get through to us through the smog and the chemtrails, because without light, folks, our energy depletes. This is why you feel fantastic, full of energy on holiday. You get back and you're bloody knackered, and what a flight that was. Oh, God, never again, Tony. You've had the conversations. So last time I'd do that, well, it was nice though, wasn't it? Yeah, but bloody knackered. And it takes you months to get over the holiday because you've got no more energy left. You've depleted, and you start to having to use your reserves, including your bank account reserves, to get over it. But yeah, it's all about the light. It truly is. It's not he who controls the money calls the tune. He who controls the light will call the tune. Put another 2 bob in the meter, love. It's getting dark. That'll be the sum of it. And this is why everybody's going on about how excited they are with 5G coming our way. Do not be excited about having radio pollution put you into your cells, my friends. It's like inviting cancer into your life. Well, that's what it is. Now we have no choice. The choice has been removed from us under this guise that it's good for our internet connection. Well, I don't want to do any more. There's no opting out, is there? And that is communism, dictatorship. This is the start. We have no choice about 5G. It's going up, and you cause trouble, you're going away, or you'll be taken care of, my old son. And there is a science behind it. It is so evil, 5G, but they won't. It's never to be born by speaking about it, folks. But you spread the word, because if you have an inability to create energy, this is why it's very, very important that you drink water, unpolluted, pure water. There we go. Buxton, you drink about 4 litres a day, quite frankly. At least. You should always carry a water around. Not out the tap. I use fizzy water because I need to burp. My trapped gas gives me chest pains. That's all. But I'll tell you why water is also an essential element, and humans can't make water, folks. It's one thing we cannot do. We can't. This is given by God, whatever our Creator is. This is it. Our solar system is full of water. Above our firmament, it is water. That's why it's teeming with life. Because above our firmament is energy at the level you cannot conceive. What do you think powers the stars? Well, why is water so important for energy? I'm not talking about sugar and glucose and all the other shit. I'm on about pure water. Will give you just as much energy as anything. In fact, it's the best fuel for your body. If you're feeling tired and run down, drink a litre of water. Bottled, fluoride-free water. And you will perk up. Amazing. Amazing. Well, here's the deal. When water is processed by the cells in our body, a byproduct of that process is that it goes into your mitochondria, where that little factory gets to work and starts a production line. Water goes in one end and out pops the other end. Bloody energy. And that's why we have to drink. We are energy-like beings. I spend my days now healing people with energy laser light. Energy lasers, I call them, because laser light is at a specific depth I can treat. Different wavelengths have different depth penetrations, that's all. So if I need to do the skin, I'll use one type of laser, and if I want to go deep into the joints, I use another. But the end result is I'm still tickling trout with my ATP. I want the ATP. Because the ATP, okay, processes oxygen. And when mixed with cytochalasin D, energy is produced. Straight out of water. It's like getting something for nothing. It's all free. It's all being given to us free. The sun is free. Water, if you go to, freshwater stream, is free. All the good stuff in life is free. Oh, it's in our face. But not when it's on our doorstep called 5G on a telegraph pole near you. It's all about the light, magnetism, vibration, /frequency. Tesla has already told us all this. Poor old Tesla wasn't aware of mitochondrial DNA and cytochalasin D. He didn't need to be. He was ahead of his time. And check out a guy called Royal Rife, R-I-F-E, Royal as in, hello, the paedophiles, and Rife. Royal Rife. And if you don't tell me that viruses can be seen and treated and killed, and cancer is a virus, it truly is. It didn't just happen like bloody magic. The bastards out there know it's a virus, and they can spread viruses, and they can spread cancers. Well, we ain't seen nothing yet. And they destroyed Royal Rife because he worked on being able to isolate the virus and find out what its resonant frequency was, where it lived and liked living, and that's how it rolls, it's how it vibrates 50 times a second. Well, he basically got to a frequency machine and exposed the cancer to that frequency and got its resonant frequency. Let's say it's lung cancer or cancer of an ovary. There we go, that's a common killer. He's isolated it, yes, knows what the type of cancer is, looks in his little book, it resonates at a set speed, and what he's going to do, he'll double the frequency and finds its resonant frequency, which means it clashes and it can't take it anymore. Tony, I'm going to go. And it goes bang, it blows. The cell has burst. He's killed the cancer. And you can kill cancer. Strange thing is about cancer, what they're treating is, and never give to the cancer, the cancer funds, folks, don't, because you're funding a eugenics program. People get cancer, you've got to have chemo and then you've got to have radio. What are you getting tomorrow, Tony? Poor Tony, Well, phosgene gas is also known as mustard gas, but in another way of packaging it, they turn it into chemotherapy. That is actually mustard gas they used in the First World War to burn people's lungs out and kill them. And as phosgene gas will take the lining off your lungs in a heartbeat. In three breaths, you're dead. And yet they're ploughing it into patients trying to get over cancer in the vain hope that it'll kill the cancer. It'll kill the patient quicker. Well, they're on the way out anyway, because anyone with cancer, the survivors, well, they're just the fish that slip through the net. If you've got breast cancer, folks, or a breast lump, ladies, if you've got one, I'm digressing a little, but it's an important point. Don't go for the chemo, ever, ever, ever. Have a spot of radio that at least goes direct to the cells and doesn't really hurt you, it hurts the cells, and it can be aimed. But chemo is systemic, and that's smashing a bloody walnut with a sledgehammer as far as I'm concerned. And you really don't want to allow them to inject mustard gas derivative into your arm and hope that you'll survive. That's a bit of a nonsense, isn't it? No. Cancer, another man-made thing. Well, I must dash. Remember the importance of light, because without light we're all dead, and they know it, because light converts to energy. And what processes energy? Mitochondrial DNA. Well, how can we kill the DNA? 5G. That'll get the suckers. You watch this space. Catch you tomorrow, folks, if I haven't been shot.